Abel, you good?
I'm
Is
good.
it Abel or Abel?
Abel.
Abel.
Either one.
Either one,
Because
huh?
my mom calls me she says it's the biblical way is Abel. So, and I'm very used to other cultures. So like Ethiopians, Indian culture, when I did ministry amongst them, they would say Abel, brother Abel. So I'm used to either one. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's okay. I say Abel, but it's okay. I'm okay
Kenyan,
with Abel.
It's Abel. Abel. Okay.
But it says not Abel. E-B-O.
Abel. By the way, we've been rolling. Let me do the intro. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another session of the Playhouse. My God, I am super excited for this. I am in grouping mode right now. Excited because we're going to have such a huge conversation. As you can clearly see, our venue has changed, and that's because, in fact, I needed to start this right. Muribwanje. As you can clearly see, we're no longer in the +254, we're in the +260. 260. We're in Lusaka, Zambia, and we have got with us. I have got with us one of, he didn't even know this, but I have been a super obsessed fan. You know, when guys ask who are the people you want to meet and have conversations with, me, I'm just ticking off my bucket list. That's the reason as to why I started in Zambia first. Seriously? I've been following your music for a couple of years. Wow. And for those of you wondering who this is a musician from, R&B musician. He's also a rapper. He's a comedian. He's got 4 albums to his name. We're going to be talking about all of this. And he's working on something right now. On top of that, he is the chairman of the MCSK version in Zambia. So basically, he's the chairman of the Zambian Copyright Society.
Yes, Zambian Music Copyright Society.
Music Copyright Society. And as you can clearly see, I'm not doing this intro justice, but don't worry, the conversation will do justice there. There's a lot more that I still need that you're going to find out about this gentleman that is in front of your screens. So I'm not even going to waste your time. I'm going to jump straight into this interview. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, put your hands together for none other than Abel Chungu Musuka.
Thank you.
No, you have to do the sound effects.
I can't hype myself. I fail.
Our budget is tight, so I do my own sound effects.
This is gonna be good.
It is. Anyway, Abel, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Excited. Thank you guys for you and the rest of Laughterhouse for welcoming me.
I appreciate it.
Like, you know, I feel like Zambia is my second home.
Serious, eh?
Yeah.
I've got to. I feel like there's so much I need to ask you, but
I don't worry.
Let's do me first.
Then we'll do you. So our rules are simple. All we're doing is just having a conversation.
Sure.
Feel free to bring out your strong personality. Feel free to let us know the deep down roots. Feel free.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I am. I am 100%
get
sure.
cancelled. This is I'm blaming.
You probably will, but. It's all good. Okay, so let's get straight into it. Tell me where were you born? When were you born? That's how way back we start.
All right. So
when did you fall in love with music?
Well, I was born in Lusaka, Zambia, from my parents Otema, Musuka, and Georgina. So I was born in '85, UTH, and then grew up. Bit in Zambia, then we moved to the UK. Then
when did you tell me about? So CTA, we take things slowly, and you'll realize it as the conversation goes. So tell me a little bit about your family structure. Are you the only child?
No, so I am the last born of quite a number of kids because both my parents had kids before they met, and then they were also previously in other relationships before they met. My dad had been married before, so I have some step brothers and sisters. Yes. And I am the last born of all this entire group. That's crazy. So 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 it was cool. The structure was, I always say, like, my dad had a military structure where the person who's older than you has a hierarchy. You know, people always say like, oh, the last born is sport. I was like, nah, it wasn't like that. Like the person who's older always has more authority than the one who's older, and always has more authority than the one who's older. So now I was always like private Abel at the very bottom, you know. So, but it was always good. We were raised my parents were very strong in the faith, very strong believers. My mom, I remember, told me that I asked her to lead me to the Lord when I was 4.
Whoa.
You know, so I asked her, "Is like, am I saved?" And she's like, "Would you like to be?" And I said, "Yeah." But I do remember when I was about 12 years old, you know, where you just feel like, oh my gosh, I'm so evil. At age 12, I'm gonna go to hell. So I went up for an altar call, which I do remember. And growing up in a Christian home, you know, my dad was very traditional. He had been a minister in government, freedom fighter. So you know, he was king in that home.
What was your dad minister of?
So he had been minister.
So are we talking about the first Kenneth Kaunda?
As in government,
Times.
Kenneth Kaunda Times, yes, yes. So Kenneth Kaunda Times, he served in the Kaunda as Minister of Commerce and also Deputy Minister of Defense. And then he was also Minister of Kanchibia, which is in Mpika, where I'm from. And he was also from the royal family. So our family basically has that tie. So the chief where I'm from, he's my cousin. So we.
Okay, so I love this. Okay, I need you to break down for me this whole royal family. Should I be here?
I'm not an expert.
Sorry, Prince.
No.
Is there something I just threw?
Trust me, I'm the worst guy to explain that.
Okay.
In terms of lineage, because again, you know, we didn't.
But you've got kingdoms. That's what is that what I'm hearing.
So we're from what we call Kwachunda Ponde. Yeah. So if I go to Mpika, it would have to be an official. You know what I'm saying? Where I'm from, because I'm royalty. So but we've never grown up with that mindset. You know what I'm saying? But it's just been in sort of respect in terms of formality.
Okay.
I mean, my dad never accepted any position of that nature. He wanted to serve the country, and that's the path that he chose. So then later on we moved to the States, where he served, and his final position was ambassador to the United Nations. Okay. My mom, on the other hand, she was the first female manager for Intercontinental Hotel, black female manager for Intercontinental Hotel here in Zambia. She was, so she served, very traveled, loved life, and then, you know, she found my dad, and then, you know, they settled.
And got you.
And then she gave her life to God. He gave his life to God. He says he gave his life to God first during a Billy Graham conference, and then later on in life he came and did it again. So and during I first discovered my love for music, we were in the States.
Okay, even before you got the States, in Lusaka, first of all, what's the in Kenya we've got Swahili. What's the national language for Zambia?
Well, we use English here. It's basic everything, but the two most dominant languages are Bemba and Nyanja. Yeah.
So when we say Muribwanje,
that's Nyanja.
Yeah. Okay. So if I was to come, so in Kenya I'd be like Nyaje. Yeah. What's up? What would you use here?
Mostly it's like it's
when you like Pompi who's here, when you see him, what do you say?
They'll say like, so Murishan is like a respectful hi, how are you? But people just Ashan. Murishan, ciao. You know, there's just like different at how Uriche, like, are you okay?
Nice.
You know, so so that's like different little styles.
Okay.
At bunch. So
I get it.
Yeah.
So let's before you went to the States, did you go to primary school here?
Yes, okay, I did.
Let's talk about
when I went to a government school called Jacaranda. Yeah, it was a government school, and it was. I was actually talking about that. The friend of mine was saying it was so cool back in the day because it didn't, like, the idea of private schools really, like, we only discovered it much later on. Like back then, everybody went to government school.
Yep.
Your dad could be a minister, your gardener's son, and you are in the same class.
That's so cool.
That's how we all grew up. So like, even when we got back from the States, my dad asked me like, what school do you want to go to? And everybody's like, oh, there's this private school, there's this international school, you know. And I said, no, I want to go back to Jacaranda. And then I went back to Jacaranda, the government school.
That's crazy.
And but then,
how long were you in Jacaranda before you went to the States?
I was only there probably like for my first grade.
Oh, okay.
For my first grade. But it had such an impact. I remember one of the best teachers, Mrs. Carways, amazing person. I still remember my best friend back in primary school. So it was. I mean, it leaves that lasting impression as a kid. And but moving to the States was a whole different thing. Had to go through summer school.
And what is the core reason why you moved to the States? Your dad was now made
because my dad was
ambassador
now made
of UN.
ambassador. Because he was a member of MMD. He had left UNIP, resigned. Kaunda let him go as well, so he left and then joined MMD. He felt like God had led him. MMD was the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy, which was our first party after Kaunda's party UNIP. So President Chiluba. So they were close that President Chiluba would come and have prayers at our house before he was even elected. So we grew up in that. Even as kids, we grew up in that sense of that tension of, man, like, are we in the right? Like my dad would make it known like it was a very tense time. Losing Kaunda didn't want that, but he allowed it, which was also very honorable of him to do. But at the same time, it was a very tough time for the nation. And even as a kid, you could feel that. You know what I'm saying? You could feel that thing my dad would talk about. I still remember, like, my dad would talk about the phones being tapped, you know what I'm saying, being careful of who you talk to and whatnot, telling my older brothers. And I remember all of that, even as a kid. Like, I was just like, yo, it was real. And but we did it. They won, and then my dad's first assignment was that he went into the diplomatic service, which is he served under Boutros Ghali, who was the Secretary General at the time, and that was our time in the States there.
Okay, so you leave. When do you leave to go to the States?
When did we leave? That was 92. Yeah, 92.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where in the States do you go?
We lived in New York.
Oh, that's
New York,
crazy.
yes.
Okay.
So he moved.
So does the whole family up and leave?
The whole family.
All the siblings, all these different guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
The whole family up and left. But my other siblings, they were from my dad's previous marriage. They stayed. Some stayed with their parents, their mothers, and some were also in Germany because my dad had also lived there before. So so we moved up to the States, and that was home for a bit.
Okay, let's talk about your time in the States. But even before that, let me ask: do you know that you have this voice?
What do you mean?
Do you know that you can sing? Can sing?
I don't think
at this time.
At this point, I only this is the
because you're about what? You're about 7 years old.
7 years old. Yeah. I actually turned 7 when I was there. I remember the first time I noticed that I could sing was I had gone for a karaoke party for a friend of mine in class. And so when we went to the karaoke party, we didn't know that they recorded us. Yeah. So they recorded us, and we were all singing karaoke with other kids, and it was like a pizza party and what. So they gave my parents the recordings. So my dad used to have this little cassette which he would play. So when he started playing it, I heard my voice was a bit different from my friends. That was the first time I said, that actually does it. Not bad. That sounds better. Why do I sound better? That was the first time. That was the first time I ever had that thought. Like, maybe I can actually sing. I didn't take it seriously until my brother, my older brother Damien, my immediate older brother. He's an amazing rapper, great artist.
In fact, there's a song that you've done together in your latest album
called Family. Yes. So
I'm a groupie, bro. I'm a groupie. I'll give you your whole albums here. I'll tell you who produced, who recorded.
So Damien, so he's the one. He made friends with a guy called TK, and who started a studio called Romicide.
Hold on, okay. So let me bring you back. So you go to the States. You turn 7 when you're there. You go to New York.
Yeah.
How's that culture shift? Are you excited? How do you settle in? How does school kick off?
So the school kicked off by us going to a Catholic school. Yeah, so we went to a Catholic school called Our Lady of Fatima. One of the things that you could see was a huge difference was my parents had very strong, that Pentecostal charismatic, strong beliefs. And then we're going to a Catholic school. And then there's also like American traditions. So there's certain things that my parents just never allowed. They're like, when you start, so we were conflicted a lot of times because the school would have these traditions where once a month we go and start doing Hail Marys, and we're just like, like we ain't saying this. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, we're just like, yo, my mom's like, casting out demons right now, you know what I'm saying? They're like, oh, we ain't chanting this now, bro. Nah. So trying not to get into arguments with people about, what we believed in and what they believed in, and
was that a private school?
That was a private school.
So you went to States and went to a private school?
Yeah.
Yo.
So, and then what happened was as well, like also just adapting to the syllabus, to the syllabus very quickly. Then there was also like certain things like Halloween. My mom would just like tell the schools like, oh, my kids are not celebrating this. I'm leaving. I'm picking them up early. Yeah. So there's so many things. But one of the cool things, it was still a very Zambian home.
Yeah.
Still a very Zambian home. When you came into a house, there was still like kneeling, respect for elders. And that, I remember even that was very shocking to some of the people, that they felt like my parents never allowed us to lose certain customs.
And culture.
Yes,
and values.
Culture. And it didn't matter who walked in through the door. We just knew that, respect elders, greet them, kneel down and greet them and whatnot. So even so people were always amazed by that sense. And that's why I say like my dad is very...
just tell it to me, what happens like now if an older man would walk into the house?
So you go and receive them by kneeling down or
boys and girls.
Boys and girls.
Okay.
By kneeling down or curtsying. That's a sign of respect. So there's a lot of respect for elders. You don't. It's not like, I can't really say, but you kind of like there's just a, to me, how do you say, demeanor or just way that you present yourself when you're talking to adults. Yeah.
Have you passed that down to your kids? Have you passed that down to your...
Yeah, I think I've managed. They're very cool kids, but I think you can see the difference in our culture. That's another conversation. I'm telling you. Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, first of all, you sound like you are a tight-knit family. I've heard you mention your word dad a lot of times, mom.
Yeah.
And now you're in this new environment, New York, which is a huge shift from Lusaka. In all forms and shapes, even at that time. Then you start this Catholic school. So now let's go on with that.
Yeah, so I mean, it was cool. Made a lot of friends with kids there. I think personally, I do think a lot of the kids there were from Italian mob families. There was a lot of Italian kids. We lived. Understand this. We lived in a I guess a suburb at the same time. And I remember my elder sister saying this. She said she remembers when John Gotti, who's the head of the Gambino family, got arrested. She said she remembers a lot of her classmates feeling low. That's the nicest thing.
They're like, dad's been arrested.
No, I just be from the mob because it wasn't a cheap school.
Yeah,
So but anyway, that's just another story. That's just my speculation. But it was really nice. My dad was he was well respected in terms. One of the coolest things that he did, we had a driver. Just a side story. We had a driver called Harry. He was from Indonesia. He used to drive us. My dad one time gave him his first holiday after a while, and he gave him a holiday to Zambia. Because he used to drive for the Zambian embassy. It's like, you drive for the Zambian embassy and you've never been to Zambia? Here's the day you're going to Zambia. And he took his wife and they came down. So it was one of those experiences. So it was really cool. But of course, the question of it, a lot of people ask me, did you ever experience racism? Yes, you would feel those subtle things. Because especially when you're in a neighborhood where you don't see other black people, that was also very common. I remember my first crush was racist.
What?
I'm not even kidding. I'm not even kidding. It was a girl called Christina. I liked her, blonde girl. And then I literally remember her saying this. And I was right there. Because I told another kid, like, oh, I like Christina. And she was standing with her friends, and she goes, I don't like Abel because he's black. Oh yeah, but they used to call me by my middle name,
Yeah,
Chungu.
Chungu.
Says, I don't like Chungu because he's black. And I couldn't understand that. And one of the things I noticed very early is, I guess there was another kid called Ronaldo who was also, he was a black kid. I remember the 2 other black kids that came into my class didn't have friends. I was the only one who had friends. And I remember even just when I was playing, like, I guess the interest was always from, maybe because I was from Africa. So other kids would always be like that. So, and I've seen my kids also have the same thing. When they go into an environment, they're like, hey, what's your name? Who are you? What is that? They're like that. Like, I'll put them in a park and immediately, hey, what's up, guys? I'm just like, guys, like, you just showed up, you know? But what's funny is, I saw that when I was in college, when I went to Bible college, when I moved to the States. Now, this is just fast forwarding, but we'll go back. One of my friends said that. They said, after we become friends, he's like, Abel, man, like, we didn't expect you to be like, everyone's hurt. When we were just, oh, that's the African, but you were going to everybody like, hey, what's up? What's your name, bro? like normally, you know, we'd expect like the African guy to wait for people to come and talk to him, but you were just there like, hey, what's up? How you doing? Good. You all right? What's your name? Where you from? What you do? Like, I would be asking the questions with the sense of excitement of the environment. So I guess that kind of persona I've had from the time I was young, to try to get to know everybody, but I couldn't read certain situations. I do remember one time there were some rich kids who lived in this Anhui, and they had a basketball court. So the assumption that you're assuming we're all kids, we're all growing up. And I was playing basketball with one of these white kids, and he was really good. And basketball was just never my sport. And I remember he was beating me, and his elder brother goes, I thought black people know basketball. And even then I was a kid, my first response is, well, soccer is my sport. But I didn't picture, or I didn't fit that there was actually racism going on at the time. But eventually when I started looking back, I said, wow, man, like that was actually happening. That was actually happening, yeah.
And how long were you in the States before coming back?
From 92 to 94.
Okay.
But here's a great moment. That incident with Christina, found out she had said the same thing to this boy called Ronaldo. Like she's exhibited racism. My brother, Damien, had drawn there was an art day. He's an extremely good artist. His drawings were by far the best. And he made this drawing of a black Jesus.
Ooh.
And that got the nuns annoyed.
What?
Annoyed. And he's extremely smart. So he says when he was in class, sometimes he'd raise his hand to the teacher. So there was a day I literally remember sitting in an office. Christina's mom was there, Ronaldo's parents were there, and there was a huge discussion. And I'm there as a kid, and there's a huge discussion about racism. Ronaldo's parents are angry, like, why is your daughter racist? And the mother's like, no, we don't teach our child like, and I'm hearing this conversation of learned behavior and the principles right there in the middle. And I heard my mom had the same conversation with the teachers. You know, like, why do you not give my son the opportunity to answer questions or do things? Because my brother was exhibiting, and why would you hate him for making this drawing? So it was a huge issue. Like, my mom was just, she didn't care. She just told it like it is. And I think that also came from, you know, my dad was also the same way, being a freedom fighter, and also studied in Germany. So he's always like, never let these people take advantage of you. Like, just tell them what you think and don't mince your words. And he was exactly the same way. So we that was straightened out by my parents.
Oh man, like, it's so crazy. Yeah. I mean, I'm talking to you and you're telling me your dad was a freedom fighter. That's like one generation, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Were you tight with your dad? Were you?
Very. Very.
Your relationship
very close.
was good.
Even became much closer even towards the ending. There was a transitional moment which I remember.
Yeah.
Which played a huge part in us becoming much closer, and I owe it to a guy called Johan Richter. He was my youth pastor when I was about 13 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll get there. So.
Yeah.
In this time that you're in the States, is that where you did that karaoke thing and figured out you could sing?
That was when I did the karaoke thing.
Okay. So from a music perspective, are you like, what are you listening to? What's playing in your house?
Right now?
No, like then. At that
then?
time. Yeah.
Oh, everyone thought I thought I was a rapper. It was my because everything was hip hop. In our home. Everything my elder brothers and my sister listened to
is what you listen to.
Is what I listen to.
Okay.
So if my sister likes Tevin Campbell, I'm listening to Tevin Campbell. If it's Kid and Play, if it's what's the name? Crisscross, Fushnickers, Nas, Eric Sherman. Like my brother, I don't know where my elder brother Otema would get them, but he's the one who liked going to play basketball in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then come back. And he's got all these cassettes with like all these underground rappers or like whoever is happening at the time.
And
Craig
you guys
Max.
are in the scene. Oh my God.
Yes.
It's not like you are getting
Yes. Like Wu-Tang. I was listening to Wu-Tang at 8, 7, 6, 8. Because like whatever my brother said is hot, like you have to listen to that.
Okay.
So that was for me. That was what I was listening to at all times.
That's a big one because you're a rap singer and you're actually really good at both.
And that's
from a rapper that I found very interesting. That no man, he's really good at this rap thing. But I'm beginning to hear where the influence started.
Yeah.
Are you listening to any Zambian?
At that time?
Yeah. Did your mom come with some CDs? Is there anything?
No. I do remember they had an album from Zambia and Zambian a cappella. Yeah, because I think they'd also come to Zambia one time, and then there was a situation. I think there was a time they were stranded, and dad helped them get back, and there was a lot of they actually stayed. Dad was helping them at the time, and so Zambian a cappella is this a cappella group. I don't know where they're at now, but they keep evolving as well, like some like much like Ladysmith. And then my mom liked Yvonne Chaka Chaka. And then there's always the traditional gospel music, because my mom liked the Jimmy Swaggart, so different people's music was playing at the time, and so she would there was so much in the array. Trust me, the hip hop was what we listened to, and our parents were not.
Yep. In fact, I've not even heard you mention any gospel music that you're listening to this time.
Yeah, so it was just so the gospel music was mostly like from my mom's collection, like those ones that you hear, that Jesus, that southern. Yeah. Yes. You'd never know who sang it, but you just knew the song. Yes. Yeah. So that was basically how the upbringing was.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anything else that you want to talk about in this 2-year period that you were in the States before coming back home?
I think it was really good. It was great. It was a great culture experience. There was an incident. There was an incident one time. I was playing with my friends, riding on a bike, and then this guy just pulls up a car, like, "Hey, how are you doing, kid? Where are you from?" I'm like, So we didn't want to talk to a stranger. He's like, "No, I'm a movie agent, and I'm looking for actors, and you look like the part." And truthfully, this guy, I don't know if he was a con though, man. I don't know if he was a con, because he came to our house, told us, he was an agent and everything like that, came over. But then that was literally a month or two before we left.
Okay.
So he's like, "No, it's got this movie called," I remember the name of the movie was supposed to be called Made Men. And they're like, "No, Pacino's gonna be in it, can you act?" and different things. And so I don't know. I really don't know. But I still remember that.
Yo.
So even as a kid, I said, one day I'll get back into the acting business, but we'll see. Yeah.
But you did go. You've done acting.
I did acting. I actually showed up in my first job when I was done was I was a scriptwriter for soap opera, Zambia's first soap opera.
Yo.
Yeah. So
what's it called?
Kabanana.
Kabanana.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, we're coming there. Okay, so you come back to Zambia, and I mean, you come back to Lusaka, Zambia. The reason why you come back is your dad is transferred back here.
Yes, he's transferred back here.
And what is he transferred as?
So he comes back, and that was so he then he lost his job at the time.
Whoa.
So he lost his job. It's a very complicated, sensitive issue because it was basically, you know, on standing. It's basically a struggle of integrity, and which is why I rarely or never endorse any political figure, or I don't do any campaigns for any. It stems from that.
Okay.
Because my dad taught me one thing. He says, listen, he says, anytime you see a president going off, just know someone had told him he was wrong at the beginning. Somebody had told him he was wrong. And one of the things that my dad was very clear about is he would share with us things he would tell Kaunda. He would share with us things that he told Chuluba when he served with both of them. And what was very, very, very truthful, even at the end, after we'd come back and my dad was no longer with MMD and out of government, Kaunda sent people twice to our house to come and ask if my dad could lead UNIP. And his words were, if I had more young men like Otema, I would probably have made better decisions or would still be in power. Because my dad was very straightforward. And he would say, no, we can't do this. No, we can't do that. The people will laugh at us.
He was for the people first.
He was for the people first. And I remember when my mom would tell, like, he knew Kaunda from the time he was 6. My dad tells me a story of when Kaunda was giving a rally and he put my dad on his shoulders. And he's like, hey, tell the people something. My dad's like, don't allow these people to sing about it. So my dad's like, from the time I was 6, imagine. So I've loved that man. So to tell him that I could no longer serve with him was a very huge thing. But it was God. He says, and he literally wrote down an entire letter of how he had served. Because at the time, him and a couple of prayer partners, they had been told, like, Chulu was going to be the next president. And they knew. So what they were praying for, they knew was going to happen. So my dad would tell Chuluba things that he would feel God was telling him. Like, listen, when you get into power, watch out for this. You need to get rid of this person, these people. You need to change this, and you need to incorporate these investments. Because they were prayer partners before they thought about leadership. Yeah. Which was just really amazing. And so it was like my mom tells me some funny stuff, says, your dad sometimes would do like secret missions to countries on behalf of government, wouldn't tell us. Like, I'm thinking we're going on holiday.
You guys are
Meanwhile, I was taking some secret letter that he couldn't share. So I was like, what? I was like, yeah. I was like, some secret letters. Dude. Like, and meeting at hotels with people, and you're thinking like, oh, we're staying at this fancy place. Then later on, it'd be like, oh, you remember that time? Yeah. So Kaunda wanted me to go and wanted to pass this letter to Mugabe. And I was like, what? So my mom was like, oh, we travel to all these places not knowing these revolutionaries were doing these moves.
That is like, that's but I love the fact that I had a conversation with a Somali lady whose dad was part of the freedom movement. And she said the biggest thing that took away from her was time with her dad. Especially the last born. She never really got to see her dad. But I'm hearing that you still had this very strong relationship with your dad.
I honestly tell you, like, my dad was work a lot. So you'd get back home, sits down on the couch, perfect. There's a picture of me and him and on the couch, like one of those pictures I have with him. And the tradition was you remove his socks, sits down. One of the first things, he loved wrestling. So you'd be like, oh, you know what did you guys record for me? So if you liked the program, of course, you'd have to record it with him. And, he was big on education, catch up, what's going on, different things. He was a traditional person. in the tense sense that he did. And this is why I say, like, there's an incident that changed my perspective.
Okay.
Because if I had seen it from the perspective of he doesn't have time for me, I never would have said I have a great relationship with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was a hard
Busy,
worker.
yeah.
He used to spend a lot of time writing. But there's a different understanding of the perspective that I had. I don't know if you want me to touch on that.
Yeah, touch on that. Let's touch on that now.
So when I was in, I started developing this attitude of, kind of like when you're a teen, sometimes it's genuine, and sometimes I think you just want a sense of attention to feel that you're going through something. You know what I'm saying? My parents are like this. You know what I'm saying? They're not, because again, my parents never allowed me to go clubbing. They never allowed me to, you know what I'm saying? If I'm saying I want to sleep over a friend's house, those moves like, sleep over your house, and then they'll be like, tell their parents to call us. That was how my parents did it. Like, tell their parents to call us, then you go. and then they'll be like, there are certain parents that'll be like, we know those parents, they're not strict.
You're not going there.
You're not going. Yeah, like, like they would vet other people's parents. Like, those parents, the way they raise their kids, nah, you're not going anywhere, And so that would be what would happen. So you kind of get frustrated, like you start piling up stuff. What? And then I remember this guy Johan was our youth pastor at the time, and he was preaching a sermon to us, and he said, He says that a lot of us as young people, we don't understand the sacrifices our parents make to take us to school, to different things, and work their lives to better our future. He says, if you're constantly assuming that you want your parents to love on you, you're missing the point of how they're loving you. So if there are certain things that you want of your parents, you also have a responsibility to give it to them. So it says, if you're saying, my parents are not affectionate, why don't you be affectionate? Why don't you be loving? Why don't you go and hug your parents? So it helped me start. So I started. So I'd go hug my dad out of nowhere, and he'd be like, what's going on? Like,
is everything okay?
You know what I'm saying? Just see, that should show you just kind of a person is.
Yep.
He thought it was weird at first. The hugging, he was like, what's going on? Hug my mom, like, what's going on? Then, if I don't, they'll be like, what's happening?
Yeah.
Like, what's happening? And I realized that it then became a culture of, then I realized at the same time, my dad never honestly used to always say, I love you. But it became something where I'd say, I love you. And then he started saying it. And I began to understand that, it wasn't that he was just a disciplinarian. He just didn't want to see the worst case scenario in everyone's life.
Yeah.
He valued education. He was stressful about it because, he grew up in a time when it was the only power they had.
Yep. It
was education. So I began to understand a lot of him during those bonding times. You know what I'm saying? And such that I think, when there was a time when I'd argue with him and I distanced myself. Then he sat me down and had one of the most, because usually if my dad calls you for a lecture, it's a lecture. You know what I'm saying? But it was like one of the most heart-to-heart felt discussions about why he made the decision and why thinking. And I remember crying, and I hugged him and told him I love him because I came to an understanding. And so even like now with myself, when I discipline my kids, like I do this, I'll explain to them. I'll tell them and I never do it when I'm angry. I tell them like, this is what. And even today, even though I'm the one who mostly disciplines my kids say like, I'm their best friend. I don't know how long that will last, but hey, so that was something that showed me and strengthened my relationship with them in a really, really good way. Taking the step of affection before and not demanding it of it from them first.
And how old are you at this time? You're in your teens.
I was in my teens, man.
That a lot of people. Actually, I don't think very few people would do that because you're the kid. You're the one who is expecting. you know. And then also you may not have the maturity to even get that understanding. So big up to that pastor. Okay, and I want to come back to hear a bit of the music stuff that you're doing. So at this time, when you come back, you come back and you go back to the same school, Jacaranda.
Went back to Jacaranda. Then after that, I was just like, yo, the water, bruh. It was just like, no water.
Jacaranda, was it a boarding school?
It was a government school, man. It was a government school. And you know what's crazy? So when we came back, we were staying in the Intercontinental Hotel. And Jacaranda is probably about like 15 minutes walk from there. So we'd go there. And so my friends like wouldn't believe, like, so now I don't
stayed in a hotel.
Yeah, like I was staying in a hotel, but I was coming to Jacaranda. So it was very, like, when I say humble beginnings, it was literally that, you know. It was the sense of my dad knew how to not make us think like, if anything looks good, like, it's not yours. You know what I'm saying? You better respect the next person and the person who's wherever they're coming from. So I never took it as in it was anything different. I actually desired to be treated like everybody else. So I only left because the school, like, when I'd need water, there was like no water system there. And I felt bad. Because I really liked the school. You know what I'm saying? I really liked the school. It was cool. But eventually we moved to a school called GOCA, Gospel Outreach Christian Academy. So went there. Then after that, it had a more, it had this PACES system. So we used to, it was like an American syllabus. And then eventually in high school, I went to a school called Taonga. My dad had wanted me to go to school, which he went to Monali, but I was like, nope.
And Taonga is it the Zambian system?
Yeah, it was a Zambian system.
Okay.
And the funniest thing, the first thing.
And have you moved out of Intercontinental at this time?
We had moved out of Intercontinental. So, because my dad had already, my parents had built a house, which is our family home. So they were just waiting for whoever was staying there, the tenant, to move out.
Yes, I get it.
Yeah. So then the government was keeping us in the hotel till that time. That person's lease was done, the time that they were supposed to be there. So so then, you know, went to GOCA, very cool school. Met a lot of friends who I'm still friends with today.
Music, has any music stuff kicked in at this time?
Music was only now starting through church. So
and where are you in church?
Singing in a kids choir, maybe in the background, never taking any lead at that time. So I was going to church at a place called Jesus Worship Center. Yeah, a man called Pastor Chelelo at the time. Then eventually in about 98 is when we moved to Miracle Life. Okay. A place called Miracle Life. I was in 8th grade. I was just starting high school.
You're still there till now?
Huh? Yes, and I've been with Miracle Life. Yeah, from 98. And there I was just like in everything. Served in the usher, served at this. Only when my brother came to join did we then start thinking about him made
Damien
friends with a guy called Bunty.
Damien, which brother came?
Damien, yeah. So when he joined the church, then he kind of brought that musical thing and says, you know what, let's try and do something musical. Then there's a guy called Bunty Kiremiro, and Bunty's amazing guitarist, and for me, frankly, one of the best singers in the world. Never released an album.
What?
Never released an album. Lives in South Africa. Went and did electrical engineering, but the voice is like, so I would honestly say the foundation of my music came from two things. It was Damien and Bunty.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Because Bunty, when he sings, like, you get goosebumps. Like your whole body, man, just like, every song. And I was like, I want that. Like, I want to be able, when I grab the guitar and I sing, I want that emotion. And then Damien is, you know, from the hip hop perspective. Yep. And so he's the one, so we were doing more rap groups. Yep. You know, but he took me to the studio the first time. Says, hey, there's a friend of mine called TK has got a studio, let's go record. I recorded some songs that were terrible, but hey.
Oh, wait. Yeah. 1 second. So at this time, I've heard you saying, have you begun to think and say, I want to do this music thing? Because by the time you're saying I want to sound like this person, why had you decided music is the direction I want to go?
No.
Or it's a hobby?
At that time, it's a hobby.
Okay,
at that time.
So this first time when you go to the studio to record with the producer TK, it's still a hobby.
It's still a hobby.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now
it's still a hobby, and it's more like, okay, how am I gonna? You're not too sure about what you're gonna sound like. They don't have like those high hopes of like, oh, I'm gonna get signed or anything. And so,
did you want to? Were you singing? Were you rapping? Or?
I was singing. I was singing. He was rapping.
Okay.
And then then in church, the first time I ever rapped, there was a guy called Bunny, Babu, and a guy called Arthur. They were rapping. So I think I was like really like, hey guys, can I rap with you? 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 So eventually, like, okay, cool, join us. I don't even remember
the verse.
I think I kind of blanked and I just started going in. And I remember I paused for a second because I blanked before my verse. And I still remember my mom was in the front row. And she was standing, yes! And she just shouted, come on, Sonny! And I was like, all right, let's go! And so shout out to my mom, who was my first cheerleader.
That's great.
Was my first cheerleader. I remember the first time I get an opportunity to rap was in church. And I was just like, but I think, no, I did it at Jesus Worship Center, but it was one of those rhymes. So, you know, when your uncles, the Sunday school teachers write for you. Yeah. And I still remember, like, even when I was reading it, I was like, this is whack. Because, again, remember, I'm on my older brother, Wu-Tang. Then I'm reading this, I'm like, this is whack. But you're in Sunday school. So it was so bad, man. So now I'm rapping, and my brother would write my rhymes.
Okay.
You know, he'd write my rhymes. He's like, okay, this is what you're gonna do. Deliver it like this, and he's very particular.
So this like when you went to when you're going to studio.
Yes,
have you started going to studio?
Yeah, not even just the studio. I think I just recorded like one song at the 2 songs at the studio. But then when working with music, my brother would like write my rhymes. Like, okay, we're gonna rap in. So the only place we'd give him a chance is like rapping at church. Okay. You know, or
but that's huge. That means church is a huge foundation.
Yeah. So even like if we've got like a high school or someplace, you know, look for these shows. The hunger was like, sorry, like, oh, someone's like, guys, there's gonna be this competition. Can we go in? Okay, cool. And then he was very particular. So what would happen was when this is one of the things I really accredit him, because I would be singing. You know, when I started learning, I'd be singing, and I could be in a room full of people like, oh man, you sound really good. And they'd be like, nah.
Sound whack.
It's like, you sound terrible. And
one sec.